Hello and good afternoon to all the students present for this session. Welcome to Unit 7 of Block 2 of the course MMPA 002 Human Resource Development. So today we are going to discuss the analysis of performances and the career planning aspects of the employees in the organization. As we have already covered the basic concept of human resource development, we have understood the processes, we have understood the HRD climate, we have understood how it is important for the organization to develop competencies within the individual employees. We have also, in the previous sessions, we have also understood how these competencies within the individual employees should be developed. Okay? So in continuation with that, today we are going to discuss like what is the way of managing the performances of the individual employees in the organization and some of their career related issues, career related aspects within the organization. So we have understood this performance management system as something which is undertaken as a vertical of the organization, as a function of the organization to maximize the capacities of the employees, to maximize the productivity of the employees, to maximize or to enhance the efficiency and efficacies of the employees within the organization, right? But here we need to understand one thing, that the entire concept of performance management system doesn't only confine to the individual roles and responsibilities or individual roles and duties that they perform, because that is solely dependent on the competences of the individual, right? But at the same time, we are evaluating the contributions made by the individual employees in terms of their accountability towards their duties and responsibilities, in terms of their accountability towards their organization, towards their job. So the concept of appraisals doesn't only confine itself to roles and responsibilities or the tasks, but it also contributes for the overall or the holistic growth of the organization. Right? So in this context, we have witnessed, starting from the beginning of the conception of this idea of appraisals till now, we have witnessed many such significant changes in the performance appraisal system. The present day system is performance management system. Like, what are the transformations that we have witnessed? We need to make an analysis of that, because the basic objective of achieving the organization's goals cannot be possible if I do manage the competencies of the individuals only. Nowadays, with the increasing complexities at the place of work, we need to understand that the behavior of the individuals, the traits that the individuals do possess, do also play a very significant role. So it's not about the goals of the organization only, it's about the individual's holistic development. That is what we need to understand. And how has it been developed in due course of time? But to see the basic, going back to the 18th century itself, when there was a transformation from manual processes to automated processes of manufacturing, right? Machine processes of manufacturing. We call that era as the industrial revolution era. And during that first phase of 18th century, there was significant migration of the people from village areas, rural areas to those industrially developed cities. And the equation of demand and supply was completely disrupted, whereby most of the organizations, they were exploiting the human resources. So that was the era where people, human beings, were exploited. So they were treated as like other economic resources. Like we do pay for certain other resources, may it be land and building, may it be the technology. Similarly, human resources are paid, and in return they got the services. But of late, during the late 18th century, F.W. Taylor the father of scientific management, he, you know, identified the importance of having specializations at the job, what we call it as a division of labor. Okay? And the division of labor made the evaluation of the contributions made by the individual employees in terms of their productivities. So earlier, where the assessment was arbitrary, assessment was not significant. So for the first time during late 18th century, with the proposition of F.W. Taylor for division of labor, the concept of evaluating the productivity of the employees has emerged. And the way by which actually these productivities can be enhanced, that was the era which realized that okay, the growth and development of the organizations are because of the growth and development of individuals' productivity. And if this individual's productivity can be enhanced, you can see that the organization's productivity can also be enhanced. Right? But during the early phase of evaluating the productivities of the individual employees, now the entire assessment was purely judgmental. The entire assessment was based on the contributions made by the individuals at the place of work only. So the human elements were not considered. It was completely based on the productivity and the contributions made by the individual employee at the place of work. Right? The situation continues till this 1920s, where this merit rating system was first introduced, right? And it was introduced first in the US Armed Forces itself. And this was to monitor the productivity of the workers in the organizations. So some of the traditional appraisal methods that we have witnessed starts with this concept of merit rating, where each and every individual, right, they were evaluated in terms of comparing their contributions with others. However, the Hawthorne experiment conducted by Elton Mayo, right, that brought a significant transformation in the process of appraisals. The Hawthorne experiment, which took around 12 years to complete, right, they have concluded that it's not about the factors related to the environment, it's not about the factors related to the jobs, it's not about the factors related to the organization, which do have a significant impact on the productivity of the workers. But when they started experimenting with some factors related to the individuals, human factors we are talking of, right, they found a significant relationship between the workers' relationship with their fellow workers and the productivity of the organization, right? So it's all about the human factors present at the place of work, which do have a significant amount of impact on the overall productivity of the work and the organization. That gave a shift in the criteria of evaluation. What it say that it's not that only the skills, potentials, or competences of the people are to be evaluated, but at the same time, the individual traits, personality traits of the employees should also be taken as a factor of improving their productivity, improving their performances. So whenever we do talk of the personality traits, individual traits, it is assumed that these individual traits are the factors which can really motivate the employees to perform, right? So the traits of the individual employees plays a very vital role. So this is what that was included in the merit rating system. So along with the factors which are based on the job or the individual job or the organization, at the same time we need to talk of all those individual traits into account for evaluation. Okay? But the system was dominant like for 20-30 years, but during 1950s, McGregor's contribution brought once again a change in the aspect. McGregor proposed that, okay, the merit rating system was okay, but one of the demerits of this merit rating system was that they focused maximum on individual traits than on the behavior. Traits and behavior are two different aspects of the individual factors, right? So whenever we are talking of traits of the individuals, we mostly have an approach of looking backward. But whenever we talk of this behavior, right, that should be forward looking. So what the individual employees can contribute in the organization rather than what they were doing. Traits are, subjective evaluation methods, right? You cannot predict the individuals in terms of their behavior at different situations, right? So it's the behavior what makes the organizations to accomplish their goals and objectives, right? So whatever the characteristics they do have, it's okay, but they need to focus more on the behavioral dimensions of the people itself, right? So from that phase onwards, whenever we do talk of this performance appraisal system, which was converted to this performance management system, actually focuses on two different aspects, broadly focuses on two different aspects. First, we talk of the exogenous factors, the external factors, right, which is more or less related with the productivity of the worker in the organization. That may be because of the factors related to the job, that may be because of the factors related to the structure of the organization, maybe the management structure, maybe the tools, equipments, right? Whatever it may be. Mostly all those exogenous factors are the factors which are related to the job and the organization itself. But at the same time, the focus is given to the internal factors as well. Internal factors means, in a simpler term, if I do talk of that, we say it is all about the psychological well-being of the workers at the place of work. It's all about the social well-being of the workers at the place of work, right? So considering all those human elements present at the place of work, the management of the performances should be carried out. That is what we need to understand, right? So whenever we do define this performance management system, we say it's, of course, the objective is to getting better results from the individual. But question is, why do we think of getting better results of the individuals, and what will happen actually if the results of the individuals are not aligned? That is the reason why performance appraisal system, which focuses on the evaluation of the contributions made by individual employees at the place of work, performance management system takes a holistic approach of evaluating the individual's contribution in line with the organization's goals. So the process is, the goals of the organization or the strategic decisions of the organizations must be understood, and then the individual level of contributions made thereby should be understood, right? So here the basic appraisal system focuses on organizations, individual departments, maybe of the teams we need to talk of, or the individuals. Three different labels we are working now. So what is to be understood is broadly divided into these four subsections. First is that what are the priorities that the managers and their employees should focus on? When I'm talking of the priorities of the managers and the employees, what do I mean from that? I mean, what is their contribution towards the goals of the organization? So it's the goals of the organizations which are decentralized to individual level of managers and the employees, and based on that only the managers and the employees, they do set their own priorities. Second, we do talk of having clear targets and goals that focuses on the priorities itself. Now, whenever we are talking of these clear targets or goals, listen that whether these goals or the targets should be imposed on the individual employees at all levels of the organization. Now, if the goals are imposed, we need to understand this is a very important concept, right? We need to understand one thing, that if the goals are imposed, that may not develop the ownership or commitment towards that particular goal. So whenever I'm talking of this goal setting process or the targets that you do set, right, this has to be a mutual process. Mutual process means what sort of goals and targets you are setting it for the individual employees. Let the supervisors or the immediate higher authority or the reporting authority of that particular employee to sit with that particular employee and then finalize the terms and conditions of the goal. Like what is the target that the individual employee is going to finalize based on his own evaluations, based on the evaluations of the manager, his reporting authority. So thus, when a goal is set mutually, when a target is set mutually, right? So you'll see that the commitment of the individual employee towards that particular goal will be more. The sense of ownership will be developed. Sense of taking that cause will be more. Employee will be more responsible towards that particular goal, right? So that is important. Third, we are talking often measuring the actual performances with the agreed upon goals, as simple as that. Now, whenever we are talking of measuring the actual performances, what method we use? Like, as I said, starting from the ancient days itself, these appraisal methods have changed in due course of time. So there was a time when we used to have this essay type methods, open book methods, we have ranking methods, merit rating systems, we used to have the checklist methods. But gradually we have seen there was a transformation from these to MBO approaches by Peter Drucker, or maybe the concept of HRD assessment tools we are talking about. We do talk of balanced scorecard concept, which is and derived version is HR scorecard, right? So nowadays we do talk of performance prisms, performance pyramids. All of those are the methods that we need to take into consideration for the right evaluation of the individual in terms of this targets and goals. Not only that, the performance management system has taken one more deeper aspect into consideration. That is, whenever we do have this outcome of the performance management system, outcome, I may come across with two things. Like if the employee has achieved the target or achieved more than the target, it's okay. The employee has not achieved the target. We are focusing on two things over here. The employees who have performed beyond their targets, can I leave them alone? let them do their work. They are performing, they are having skill, knowledge, and requisite abilities or aptitudes. So why should I be worried for them, those who are performing? Maybe sometimes we do take them as the star performers of the organization. But my friends, you need to understand one thing, that whatever skill, knowledge, abilities, aptitudes these people do have, those needs to be nourished. So now the people who are performing, they should also be a part of the learning management system of the organization. They should also be given the opportunity of training and development, growth within that particular organization, right? We're talking of that. But those employees who are not performing, whose performances are below average, right? If those kind of employees are there, what I need to do with them? I need to make a right assessment of the reasons of their non-conformity. Is it because of lack of skill, knowledge, and abilities, or is it because of the personal problems that the individual employees are exposed to? What is the root cause of that particular problem? Right? So it's not always, we cannot always assume that the individual employee has not performed because of lack of skills only. Maybe because of certain personal reasons, the employee cannot or have not focused on the place of work. I need to understand the reasons for that only. So that is why you need to identify the causes, root causes of the performance related aspects, performance related problems, and then you need to identify
Hello everyone, my name is Anish.
Unless and until you do that, unless and until you do find out the remedies for that problem in the organization, it will be very difficult for us to manage the performances of individual employees. Right? So that is the reason, unlike earlier days, which the performance management system were having a very simpler process, nowadays the processes are being more complicated because we are dealing with the individual behavior. So that is the reason whenever we do make an assessment of the basic objectives of this performance management system nowadays, the objectives of performance management system focuses broadly on three different aspects. When we do talk of these aspects, like first is the strategic objectives of the performance appraisal system, performance management system rather. The strategic aspects of the performance management system focuses on the accomplishment of the goals, whether it is of the organization or of the individual. We need to talk of that, right? So it should be the goals of the organization. How the goals are understood, interpreted, are accepted by the individual employees in the organization. So in what way the individual performances of the employees, are aligned towards the strategic goals of the organization. Right? We may have 10, 15 such points, but overall we need to understand that the contribution made by the individual employee towards the strategic goals of the organization is to be evaluated. Second, whenever we do talk of this performance management system, that would develop the level of communication in terms of the higher authorities and the subordinate staff itself. Okay? As a part of the responsibility, it's the reporting officers, reporting executives, reporting managers. They do have the responsibility of the downline executives, downline employees itself, subordinates. So there has to be a frequent, frequent communication channel that should establish among all those two people itself. So maybe the process of decentralizing the goals of the organization. If I'm talking of decentralizing the goals of the organization, there has to be a proper communication channel through which these goals can be decentralized. Or maybe the kind of feedback that flows from bottom to top, communication channel should be there. Whenever we do discuss the goal setting process, the communication should be open and transparent. Let the individual employee make the right assessment of his goals and then take necessary steps for that. Second, whenever we do talk of providing a feedback to the individual employee, the communication plays a very vital role over there also. Communication plays a very vital role over there. So it's all about the like making the right kind of feedback given to the individual employees. Then we do talk of the third aspect, which is to motivate the individual employee towards the goal accomplishment. Whenever we do talk of the level of motivation, we need to understand one thing, that motivation, even if it is a self-driven concept, right? People can be motivated by themselves only, but the role of the individual employee is more defined in terms of the reporting officers or the higher authorities' ability to inspire them, to motivate them. Right? So the objective of this appraisal system, management system, is three-way driven, right? Strategic level, the communication level, and the motivational level itself. Now here we do come up with the basic framework of this performance management system itself. So here you can see, like we do talk of this, this is what the actual performance system is. But where from we to start with? We start with the objectives and finding out the strategic direction of the organization itself. From setting up the objectives of the strategic directions of the organizations, we do talk of making an analysis of the competitive position of the organization. Right? Where does that organization stand? Its environment, its resources, its position in the market, everything, right? And the objective is to gain that competitive advantage. And whenever we do talk of the basic organizational goals, it's about growth, productivity, profitability, market share, turnover, reducing turnover, stability in human relations, all those, right? Aspects that we do talk of. Getting? So here, what we need to understand is that the basic objectives of the organization can be achieved by managing the people only. So here we are defining the desired level of performance state, which contributes towards the goals of the organization. But we need to make an assessment of the individual's actual performance state itself, right? So whenever we do identify that the desired performance level and the actual performance level do have differences, we say that gap has to be identified. This gap may be because of the individual, or maybe because of the team, or maybe because of the organization. But here we need to understand one thing, that employees may have their abilities, may have the skill, knowledge, but sometimes they don't contribute. What could be the reason? Reason is lack of ownership. Individual behaviors cannot be predicted. Many such factors could be there. So here we need to understand one thing, that is employees' behavior affects the performance level of the employees. Similarly, employees' perceptions and attitude, maybe towards the job, towards the organization, that also affects the performance levels of the individuals, right? So whenever we do see that there is a gap between the desired level of performances to the actual level of performances, right? So here we need to make, or we need to go for a detailed analysis of the cause, reasons for non-conformity. Reasons for non-conformity. What are the reasons, right? Sometimes you have to come out with certain organizational level of factors, as we discussed. Maybe the rewards and the compensation systems adopted in the organization, maybe one of the most important factors, right? We have understood, no, like starting from these motivational theories, people need to fulfill their role, lower order needs first, then they go up to the higher order needs, no? So the equity principles, the expectancy principles, all of those principles which do have a direct impact on the motivation of the employees, right? Need to be understood. Whether basically whether there is an equitable compensation policy adopted in the organization or not. Right? Similarly, the availability of data and information for the management of the performances itself. We do talk of availability of resources, tools, environment, right? So these are some of the individual level of factors. If I to talk of the job factors, whether the individuals do have all the competences, skill knowledge with themselves, right? So lack of technical skills, lack of competencies, lack of abilities can be taken care of. But sometimes we do come out with an analysis of this individual's performances, which may lead us to identify that the expectations and the motives of the people are different. There is no ethics in terms of the behavior and the action of the people. So they don't come out with this ethical behavioral patterns. So these are individual level of factors based on the behavior of the individual at the place of work, based on some of the traits. So what we need to understand is that we need to make these three different level of analysis: organizational level of analysis, job or task level of analysis, and the individual level of analysis to find out the root cause. Right? And as a HR, as a department, right? What is our role over there? So when I do have these problem areas, right, I need to talk of finding out a solution for each and every problem itself. So feedback, proper feedback and counseling sessions should be there. Let the individual employees to accept the environment of change. Focus should be on team building. Focus should be on talent management. Focus should be on training and developmental measures. The equitable reward management system itself. Right? Promoting an environment of learning, LMS. We will talk of learning management system. Right? So ethical way of doing that particular thing. These are the things like what we need to do as a HR. Right? And that will lead us to have the desired outcome. Whenever we talk of desired outcome, we say that there has to be a proper alignment within the individuals in terms of their behavior with the financial, operational, customer learning, growth processes of the organization, right? So ethical performances would be there, driven by organizational strategy would be there, orchestrated by HR, right? So outcome is quality of work, tangible rewards, right? Future growth, future environment, altogether, inspiration. And these outcomes of the place of work will lead to the organizational outcomes. Right? So here we see now this is a complete cyclic process. We started with the organization's goals, ended up with that. Having a competitive advantage of our employees over other employees, right? To talk of that. So performance of management system, if I do say performance management system is a systematic holistic approach, right? A wholesome approach, right? To identify the critical dimensions of the performances, such as we talk of the competency levels, skill, knowledge, abilities, aptitudes, etc. The level of commitment means to what way the employees are motivated enough to achieve their goals, and the way they come out with ethical behavior at the place of work. Right? So it's all about ensuring the organization's mission, vision, objectives, goals, values, right? But at the same time, the focus is on the individuals also, right? So a multidimensional strategy that include this input, process, output, and outcomes of the entire process. Yeah. So here you need to understand one thing, that the basic objective of managing the performances, and that to managing the performances as a whole in a holistic way, is to ensure that you do have right capabilities within the organization. Okay? So objective is to enhance the productivity of the employees, but at the same time, the focus is on the individual level of traits and behaviors. Right? So those are the typical aspects of this performance management system that we need to discuss, right? Let us move to the other aspects of today's session, that is about a career. Actually, if we talk of this career itself, this career can be interpreted in many different ways altogether, right? We say that in a simpler term, career is all about the way we earn our livelihood. That is a career. But sometimes, people do assume this career as moving upward in a chosen line of work. So in a particular vertical, when they move up in the organizational hierarchy, that they interpret as a career. Sometimes making more money is also treated as a career. Sometimes having more responsibility among the people, or having more power at the place of work, that is also treated as a career. Or acquiring more status, prestige, power at the place of work, people do assume that as also a career. So what actually a career mean to us? Can I take all of these to be there included in a definition of career? Maybe. But we need to understand two different ways in which these statements are validated. One is an objective view. Objective view says that it's highly specific, right? It's a sequence of positions occupied by a person during a course of lifetime, right? That means what? The individual employee is highly determined. Individual employee is more specific. Individual employee is more concerned for achieving particular positions in the organizational hierarchy. But whenever we do talk of this subjective view, we say that this is more concerned with the individual in terms of his life accomplishments, right? Work-life accomplishments. So a generic approach, right? So whereas objective view is highly specific, subjective view is more generic way of defining the career itself, right? So we said that it's all about a sequence of attitudes and behaviors associated with a series of jobs and work-related activities itself, right? So all about how do we evaluate that particular person, or how do that particular person evaluates the opportunities available for him. This is called a career itself. Okay? May it be a succession of related jobs. It has got the other dimensions of it, right? Driven from the term succession planning itself. Where the career planning is initiated by the individual employee, the succession planning is initiated by the organization, because organizations want to find out the critical successors to the key jobs of the organization, right? So here what we need to understand is now all of those aspects like the hierarchical jobs in which the individual to pass through to accomplish the life goals or the goals of the organization is called as a career. Either it can be individual centered or organizational centered. Individual centered, as I focus, no, as I say, that it's all about individuals occupying certain positions, right? And organizational center means positions occupied by key individuals, right? Understand the difference. Individuals occupying different hierarchical positions in the organization, and those key jobs, key organizational positions are fulfilled by the individuals. Okay? So that is what the approach we need to take into consideration. So whether the focus is internal or the focus is external, that is what we need to understand. Okay? So internal focus mostly leads to the career dimensions, career planning, management, development of the individual employees. But external focus says what's the actual job you are occupying and the jobs that you are going to occupy in future fulfill the requirements of that particular job. That is what the external focus is on. Right? So having that internal focus and external focus together, we can systematically plan the career growth options of individuals in the organization. The processes, two different aspects are related to that. One is career planning, career management, and career development system. Career planning is to know the skills, values, opportunities, constants with that individual, right? And based on the skill, knowledge, aptitudes, and abilities of the individuals, how can we really, boost the career of that particular individual employee is what is concerned for, right? So it's all about making a futuristic aspect of that particular individual employee occupying certain positions which can be designed for him, right? Career management is preparing, implementing, and monitoring the career plans undertaken by the individual alone or with the organization's career system, right? So whenever we talk of identifying the potential of that particular individual employee, we say the individual employee may not have that particular potential. Then what to do? We need to develop those potentials, right? So we need to prepare those individual employees to take up more responsible positions in future. We need to implement the concept of self-learning mechanism, continuous learning processes. We need to talk of the individuals occupying those key organizational positions as planned. Okay? And we need to take the help of development for that, career development system for that, right? So that is a planned effort through which these organizations do create a balance between individual career needs and organizational or workforce needs itself. Okay? So as long as we understand that a career is required for us, organizations also want a stable employee base to take the organization's cause to the next level itself, right? So it always gives that benefit to the individual employee and to the organization as a whole, right? And you can also retain the valued employees over there. And most of the concepts that you can take into consideration for that, right? So here we do come out with a basic process of understanding the career systems, right? Now here we do talk of the first thing that we have already discussed. No, the first thing that we need to take into consideration is the individual's needs and aspirations. So may it be in terms of skill requirement, may it be in terms of development, in terms of the personality, traits of the people, behavior of the people, whatever is required by the individual employee to perform should be provided. No? So making an assessment of what the individual does have, what the individual possesses, is the first step towards the career planning process. Second, we need to take into consideration the personal counseling and assessment center. Okay? Sometimes you'll see that employees of the organization who are not performing as we have understood, or they don't conform to the performance standards, maybe because of the fact that they are being wrongly placed in the organization. Whatever traits or behavioral dimensions they do have, that is no way useful for the job they are posted. Okay? So they cannot have the right kind of output. And when we do talk of the basic third processes, whatever the lapses are there in terms of the skill or maybe the behavioral, right? After having that counseling and assessment center, we need to prepare a list of those efforts that are to be taken into consideration, right? So all individual development efforts should be taken into consideration. But here you can see, parallel to the individual requirement, we do have three such parallel requirements at the organizational level itself. Organizational needs and opportunities, maybe in terms of the growth, expansion, diversification, whatever it may be. That should be understood first. Then personal planning and career information. This is what that you need to take as if we have understood the human resource planning process, right? And human resource planning is all about ensuring right number of persons with requisite skill, knowledge and abilities, right? As and when it is required by the organization, by the job itself, right? So personal planning or human resource planning, they focuses on that, once again, a gap which is identified between the total number of human resources required to perform all the jobs in future and the total number of human resources which are available at the present time, right? We need to bridge that gap. So we are going for, if there is a shortage of three possible cases are there, either shortage will be there of human resources, right? In future, I'm going to have less number of human resources as of the present. There may be surplus human resources. So in future, my human resource requirement will be less, but I'll have plenty of human resources. But there may be exact, right? Now, excluding that exact, either shortage or
welcome to this video जिसका नाम है बेसिक्स ऑफ फॉरेक्स। बहुत सारे लोगों को बेसिक्स नहीं मालूम होते, फॉरेक्स क्या नहीं मालूम होता, किस टाइम पे ट्रेड करना चाहिए नहीं मालूम होता, टिप्स का मतलब नहीं मालूम होता, बहुत सारी चीजें होती है जो नहीं मालूम होती। तो आज इस वीडियो में आपको सारी चीजें सीखने मिलेंगी और जस्ट इसके बाद आएगा फॉरेक्स एनालिसिस का वीडियो जहां पे आपको इस इंफॉर्मेशन को अप्लाई कैसे करना है उसमें मदद मिलेगी। इसके जस्ट बाद आएगा डाउ जोन्स, नैस्डैक, यू कैन यानी कि अमेरिकन मार्केट में ट्रेड कैसे करते हैं, उसका वो वीडियो आएगा। उसके जस्ट बाद आएगा न्यूज और इवेंट्स, क्या क्या डेटास होते हैं, एनएफपी, सीपीआई, एफओएमसी, बहुत सारे इवेंट्स होते हैं जिनमें बड़ी वोलेटिलिटी हो सकती है। तो वो सारे इन्फॉर्मेशन थोड़े एडवांस वीडियो इसके बाद आने वाला है, ठीक है? कुछ स्ट्रेटजी से रिलेटेड भी आने वाले हैं। बट आज शुरू करते हैं बेसिक्स क्लियर होना बहुत जरूरी होता है।
If we can think of this formal aspects of the So here you can see the individual level of factors.
Ever wondered how
and the
world-class
organizational level
coaches
of
record
factors
world-class
are mostly
videos?
similar.
Do they memorize their content? Is there
And it will have a match in between. So here it will come out with
तो सबसे पहले समझते हैं फॉरेक्स होता क्या है। अब मैं यहाँ पे tradingview.com ओपन करता हूँ, ये वो वेबसाइट होती है जहाँ से हम लोग स्टार्ट करते हैं ट्रेड करना। तो सबसे पहले जब भी हम tradingview.com पे आते हैं तो ऐसी स्क्रीन मिलती है, आपका पेड वर्जन ही फ्री होगा तो ऐसी मिलेगी, तो ऐसी भी मिल सकती है, फोर स्क्रीन भी मिल सकती है। आप ऐसे आओगे और यहाँ पे आने के बाद अपन देखेंगे, हम एक वॉच लिस्ट बनाएंगे फॉरेक्स नाम की। ये मेरी वॉच लिस्ट है फॉरेक्स की। ये वॉच लिस्ट मैं आपको दोबारा दिखा दूंगा जब आएंगे अपन लैपटॉप पे। तो फिलहाल ये सारे पेयर्स होते हैं फॉरेक्स, जैसे अगर आपने इसके पहले ट्रेडिंग SBI में देखी है, निफ्टी में देखी है और सारी चीज, तो ये ऐसे पेयर होते हैं, यूरो USD INR, ठीक है, GBP INR, डॉलर वर्सेस कैनेडियन डॉलर, ऐसे दो पेयर होते हैं, ठीक है, एक है डॉलर इंडेक्स। तो इस तरीके के पेयर्स होते हैं। और फॉरेक्स जो ट्रेडिंग का मतलब होता है, फॉरेक्स मीनिंग अगर मैं लिखूंगा तो उसका मतलब होता है फॉरेन एक्सचेंज, यानी कि जो भी फॉरेन एक्सचेंज हो रहा होता है। ये एक ऐसा मार्केट होता है जो 24 आवर्स ओपन होता है और सैटरडे संडे बस बंद होता है। तो इसमें क्या होता है, मंडे से फ्राइडे बंदा सीधे मेहनत कर सकता है, काम कर सकता है। इसमें स्टॉप लॉस लगा करके स्टॉप लॉस स्किप होने का प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता। तो यहाँ पे बहुत सारे बेनिफिट है। जिसकी जॉब होती है वो शाम को आने के बाद ही मार्केट ट्रेड कर सकता है, इनफैक्ट वो एट टाइम अमेरिकन मार्केट ट्रेड करने के लिए। तो ये सारी चीजें अपन आज इस वीडियो में सीखेंगे। तो अपन क्या करते हैं, वापस आते हैं आपके पास और स्टार्ट करते हैं अपनी पढ़ाई सबसे पहले आईपैड पे। आईपैड पे क्यों पढ़ाई स्टार्ट करते हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ पे मैं आपको बेसिक समझाना चाहता हूँ, फिर अपन आगे चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं। तो सबसे पहले अपन को समझना है, ठीक है, ये वीडियो यहाँ पे स्टार्ट होता है कि फॉरेक्स होता है। हमने समझ लिया फॉरेक्स मतलब करेंसीज होते हैं, जैसे कि USD INR एक पेयर हो गया, यूरो USD एक पेयर हो गया, ठीक है। गोल्ड, क्रूड ऑयल और डाउ जोन्स के अलग से दो वीडियोस बनाऊंगा तो उस पर समझेंगे, ठीक है। USD CAD एक पेयर हो गया। हम जब इस पे ट्रेड करते हैं, जैसे ये अप्रोक्सीमेटली 80 रुपए का आता है, ये अप्रोक्सीमेटली 1.1 के आसपास घूमता रहता है, ये भी मतलब 0.9 सब कुछ ऐसा घूमता रहता है। सबके अलग अलग नंबर होते हैं। तो अपन क्या होता है, अपन इसमें ट्रेड करते हैं। इसमें ट्रेड करते हैं तो अपन को समझना है कि यहाँ पे दो चीजें होती है। पहले USD और INR में एक हमेशा कहलाता है प्राइमरी करेंसी होगा, तो ऐसा ठीक है। कुछ बाद आएगा डाउ जोन्स to 65
the maintenance phase is there. Maintenance phase, what it says, you need to maintain your career without any ups and downs, right? And when you talk of beyond 65 itself, we say that it's about the declining phase of our career, right? So first one is exploration phase, second one is growth phase, third one is maintenance phase or maturity phase, fourth one is declining phase, right? So here we need to understand one thing, that is all these four levels do have different needs of their own, right? Out of a survey it was found out, right? Whenever the people are in the phase of apprenticeship, beyond like before this age of 25, where they are exploring all possible career growth options before choosing a particular one and all those things. So for them, the basic requirements is safety, security, and this physiological needs, right? Because those are the people who are at the early phase of their career, okay? So they give more focus on that. So our the other HR verticals, like we are talking of this compensation policies, we are talking of the training and development aspect, we are talking of industrial relations or welfare facilities, that should focus on providing these requirements so that the people can be motivated, right? We are talking of the advancement phase, where people are more driven by the achievements, esteem, autonomy needs, right? So here you will see that in the advancement phase itself, 25 to 45, right? So there is a plenty of opportunity for the growth of the career, right? Because the organization also passes through that phase, no? So where there is a lot of requirement of human resources, and it is assumed that the human resources can contribute towards the goals of the organization like that only, okay? So advancement phase more are towards achievement and esteem. Maintenance phase, esteem is all about having a respect in the society. So how can we have a respect in the society is our esteem need, and self-actualization is realization of the self-values of the individual. Right? And of course, when the individual employee passes through the last phase of his career, ready? Strategic thinking we are talking of, right? Or declining phase. So they mostly value this self-actualization needs, right? As if we understood that Maslow's need priority model focuses on 5 such different, we are talking of physiological, safety, social, then esteem and actualization needs, right? Lower order needs and higher order needs. You have understood, right? And people are in the process of fulfilling all the needs. So whenever I do talk of managing the career of the individual employees at the place of work, managing the career of the individual employees at the place of work, I need to take these dimensions into consideration. And these are the aspects what really makes the individual employees motivated. Getting? So if I had to talk of these apprentices fulfilling their psychological, safety, social needs can really motivate them. Lower order needs can be motivate them, right? Sometimes when we talk of this advancement, so it's a mix of lower order and some higher order needs. Maintenance phase focuses on higher order needs only, and the declining phase focuses only on self-actualization phase, right? Realization of the same. So it's not about understanding these transitions, it's about facilitating these transitions with the relevant HR policies of the organization. Relevant HR policies of the organization. That's what we need to understand. That's what we need to take that into consideration, right? So how these employees career transitions do take place, and what I should do, or what uniform policy I should develop so that the individuals can satisfy their requirements, right? We're talking of the career development, right? So it's all about enhancing the employees' productivity, employees' potential, and then to motivate that particular individual employees to accomplish the career goals. So by moving up in the organizational hierarchy, advancing himself in the organizational hierarchy, making some sort of career change itself. So a systematic process of guiding and movement of the individual human resources at the enterprise through different hierarchical positions, right? So those are the things that is defined as a career development phase, right? But as we discussed, this career development process passes through these 4 different aspects. One is exploratory, second one is establishment, third one is maintenance, and the 4th one is declining phase itself. Here we to say the exploratory phase, where the individual employees, they are in a process of establishing a career. So they still keep on exploring the availability of the career. So here in the exploratory stage itself, when I deal with the human resources, I need to provide them all the details related to the organization. Let them be acquainted with the organizational policies, plans, rules, regulations. Let them get that vision of getting that organizational aspects. Let them have that feeling that, okay, these organizations are well equipped with the requisite career advancement programs. So adequate training and development aspects are there, adequate facilities are there. So let them explore the probabilities of advancement in their career. Exploration phase. Establishment phase. So here you need to make the individual employees to stabilize at the place of work itself, right? So the best possible employees of the organization, you need to develop a positive image of that organization among those employees. So having a correct communication, right? creating that learning environment, making that individual employees to accept challenging jobs, providing adequate feedbacks in terms of their performances. So you need to make the individual employee to stabilize and grow. Third phase is the maintenance phase. This is a very typical phase of the career phase where you need to talk of proper counseling, feedback, appraisals, and you need to focus more on the motivational aspect of the individual employee, because that is a plateau stage. Your employees also understand that you don't have much growth in that particular stage, but you need to motivate them in terms of their outcomes. So there has to be a transformation from generalistic structure to a specific structure that you can do at the same level of organizational hierarchy, right? And take care of the family. The final stage is the decline stage. It's all about helping the individual employees to move away from their career options without destroying their self-worth. So friends, these are the different aspects of the performances and career growth options that we do have. So thank you very much for this session. And once again, we'll join back to discuss the unit 8 to 12 in some upcoming classes. So thank you very much. Have a good day.